You're watching the Mid-American Conference on ESPN, and for the Ball State gymnastics team, they are opening up at home for the first time since 2021. Today, number 36 Rutgers and Western Michigan come into Worthen Arena to take on the Cardinals. Hi everybody, welcome to Muncie, Indiana. Rick Johnson and the former assistant coach at Auburn in Kentucky, Mary McDaniel. Mary, you've been in these situations before, the start of a new season. Very exciting times for all these gymnasts out on the floor today.
Absolutely, but you know, some of these girls are putting new skills in their routines for the first time in competition, and that leads to a lot of nerves. And this year with the change in the calculation of the NQS, almost every meet counts, so that doesn't leave a lot of time for nerves.
We'll get into those changes to the NQS as our afternoon rolls on, but here are the three gymnasts to take a look at here today. First up for Ball State, Zoe Middleton was one of the top all-arounders in the Mid-American Conference a year ago. Today competing in just 2 events.
Zoe is definitely one to watch. She's a standout on this team. We talked to Coach Salim earlier, and they said they're taking it day by day to get her back on vault and floor, but look for her to be a major player on bars and beam today.
For Western Michigan, they're going to a youngster. Their freshman Casey Mooney competing in the all-around for the second meet to start the year.
Yeah, and Casey's got the weight of the team on her shoulders today. 3 of her teammates are out sick with the flu today. That's a lot of pressure for a freshman.
Lastly, Rutgers had one of their best seasons in recent history, making the NCAA regionals for the first time last year in over a decade, and a big reason why was Gabrielle Dildy.
Absolutely, and she's one of their most consistent athletes, and she's adding the all-around for the first time in her 4 years at Rutgers. So look for her to be an all-around contender today.
A lot of excitement here at Ball State today. Second meet of the year for Western Michigan and Rutgers. First one for BSU, Rotation 1. Coming up next here on ESPN+. The vault, Rutgers will be on the uneven bars and Western Michigan on the balance beam. You see our 6 competitors for each team on your screen right there. Mary, what's going through these teams' minds right now? You have Rutgers that had a tri-meet last week, a duel for Western Michigan, and then the lid lifter here for Ball State today to get 2026 underway.
Well, you know, Rutgers started out with I think their best score in season history for an opener last week. So they're looking to build on that. Western Michigan struggled a little bit last week, so they're looking to improve on that, and Ball State just wants to have a nice, consistent meet out of the gate.
Rutgers, as Mary mentioned, scored 195.4, defeating both Temple and Brockport at home last Sunday. Get a look at head coach Joanna Salim coaching up her Cardinals before they take the vault.
Today, I think we're gonna watch bars and beam live, and then we'll do a playback for vault at the end. So you'll get to see every routine.
Yep, so we'll see Rutgers on the bars, and we'll go a double box here off the top between Rutgers and Western Michigan. Even though Western Michigan and Ball State both part of the MAC, this does go down as a non-conference matchup today between the Cardinals and Broncos. They will meet up in a duel coming up later this season. But Western Michigan's got good memories here of Worthen Arena. The last time they won the MAC championship was in this building, and they just narrowly beat Ball State by about a hundredth of a point. So it was a very good time the last time Western Michigan, one of the last few times Western Michigan was here in Muncie.
It definitely was. It was a lot of fun to watch. I was here for that.
And leading off for the Broncos, back in her home state, sophomore from St. John, Indiana, Rylan Garvey.
Nice forward roll mount there. She's looking very confident. Typically, this is your most consistent athlete that's starting out the balance beam for you. Nice series. She really didn't need to take that little bobble there. That's nerves. It's going to be a little questionable if they give her the value for those leaps. They weren't 180 at all. Beat jump to a standing layout step out, that is very difficult.
Garvey, the reigning MAC freshman of the year, got a big pop back in her home state when she was introduced earlier with her teammates.
Just got her dismount left. Way out, gainer full off the side. Solid beam routine to start. We'll see what her start value is. Over on bars, beautiful giant full into a double tuck, and she sticks the dismount.
That's the junior Campbell early, and we mentioned the junior, but really competing kind of like a freshman. She missed her first 2 seasons, tore her Achilles coming in before a freshman year at Rutgers. Gets the crown there. She's the leadoff on bars for the 2nd week in a row here for the Scarlet Knights.
And that is super exciting when you finally get to come back from injury. She should be very proud of that bar routine. Looks like they've got a stick crown.
Do you guys have any crowns or anything like that back at Auburn or Kentucky? Or was that kind of a new age thing?
That didn't happen back then. This is a new phenomenon in the last 5 years or so. It's fun to watch, though. Each team has something different.
We mentioned early had not competed her first 2 years at Rutgers, as you get ready to see the freshman Bella Ciolfi out of Foxborough, Massachusetts. But for a young lady like Campbell, not only not competing for 2 years in a row, but also being the very first gymnast that competes for your team back-to-back weeks has got to be a lot of pressure, but she looked pretty calm, cool, and collected.
She definitely looked calm, cool, and collected. Of course, with the torn Achilles, she probably got to spend a lot of time working bars. So she was ready to go. Looks like they're a little slow getting the scores up today.
Like Mary mentioned off the top, we will have a full highlight package for vault coming up. That's where all the cheers for all the Ball State fans, as you see Jordana Phyllis, 9.750, and then Mary Rose Bellin just completed her routine on the vault. When we talked with Joanna Salim earlier this week, we mentioned how a couple of years ago, vault was usually one of their stronger events. They're trying to build that back up here, starting with meet number 1 today.
They are, but that's a good start for them. Solid start. Nice, huge straddle Jaeger. Over on bars to immediate overshoot.
This is the Atlanta native, Manus Raines.
Beautiful Stalder. Double tuck a little close to the bar there. There's going to be a little deduction. A step on the landing, but a hit bar set. She should be happy with that.
Tied her career high of 9.800 last week.
And she has beautiful form over there.
And it looks like we are ready to go over on the beam with Ciolfi. What's it like as an assistant coach trying to help your gymnast for a longer than usual wait before your routine goes?
Well, I always just tried to keep their mind off of it. I would ask them silly things like what's their favorite food or what they had for lunch. Try not to think about the fact that they're standing there waiting to go on the balance beam. That was a beautiful front toss to immediate beat jump.
We'll see Bella at 3 different events today.
Layout, step out. Just opened her hip a little bit there. Didn't need to have that wobble. Beat jump to a beautiful switch side leap. Nice 180. Last season, beam was an event that Western struggled on a little bit. So far this season, it's been super solid. I love to see that. Round off 1.5. Hop on the landing, but nice, solid balance beam routine. She's got to be excited about that.
Last week, Bella had a 9.725 on the beam. You see the score starting to pour in there. Carly Mercer, 3rd one to go here for BSU, and a little extra flexing there between 12th year head coach Penny Jernigan of Western Michigan and Ciolfi.
That was a pike Delchev. You don't see that very often.
This is Ginger Richards for Rutgers.
To an overshoot. Oh, she saved that handstand. Front 1.5 dismount. A very different routine. I love seeing that. It's hard to get a 10-0 start value that looks different with the college rules right now. So it's fun to watch it when they are creative like that.
And how does that, we mentioned this is the 2nd meet of the year for Rutgers. Last week, this was the only event that Ginger competed in. She'll be competing in 2 events today for the Scarlet Knights, but trying to add those different skills, not just for high start values and to get you, your individual person or athlete, as many points as possible, but also you mentioned trying to be different because these judges will go to a lot of different meets, so you don't want to show them the same exact skills in the same exact order with different people doing the same routine.
Right, and given the fact that there's such strict requirements on the level of difficulty you have and the different element groups you have to have, especially on bars, it just tends to all fall into the same pattern of a bar routine, whichever is the easiest, most consistent, that meets the values. So when you get to see something like a Delchev or a front laid out 1.5 twist dismount, it's fun to see. That was a nice vault. We'll see that later.
Lindsey Gerard getting the Ball State folks on their feet. Third competitor on the beam is the all-arounder Casey Mooney, freshman from Lake Stevens, Washington.
Sometimes the full turn is the hardest skill, even though it's the easiest.
Why do you think that?
I think it's because they're so worried about the harder skills in their routine that they don't concentrate. Like, she just did a beautiful back handspring layout step out, no wobbles at all, but she was definitely focused on that. And they lose focus on the little things sometimes because they're too worried about what's coming next. A little short on that switch side leap. Right leg could have been up a little bit higher.
Casey tied for third in this event last week, dove up the year at home against Wilberforce.
Front toss, again, beautifully done. I'm really impressed with this Western Michigan team on beam today. They're solid, confident. There's a Branny on the beam. You don't see that very often. You see side aerials all the time, but you don't usually see a Branny where they land on 2 feet. And a gainer full dismount off the side, stuck landing. Very solid.
We mentioned off the top, 3 Broncos out today with the flu, so even more important for your all-arounder Casey Mooney to have not just scores that count, but have high scores as well, with maybe lacking a little bit of depth in a couple of different events.
Right, absolutely. And you know, in club gymnastics, these athletes usually compete the all-around, so it shouldn't be a big deal going into college and competing the all-around, but it is. It's just a change from, you know, most of these athletes didn't have 19 other teammates that were their same level. So you've got that. You have the different dynamic of freshman versus senior. You have first time away from home. You have classes that they're, you know, half of them have probably been homeschooled, so now they're, you know, attending school in person. There's a lot of life adjustments that make it hard for them to come in and really do their best on 4 events as a freshman.
Casey making the big move all the way from the Pacific Northwest in Washington, as you mentioned, tied for third last week. Did win the all-around against Wilberforce. Back over the uneven bars, and this is the all-arounder for the Scarlet Knights, Gabrielle Dilden.
And this is the event that she's added. She's did toe handstand to Maloney, immediate pack salto, nice pirouette, finished in handstand. Beautiful handstand. Full twisting double back. I'm not positive if she got that stick or not, but it was close. Impressive to add that your senior year. Over on beam. Oh, triple series. That hurt a little bit. She likely won't get credit because her feet didn't land on the beam on that layout step out. And that's an unfortunate fall there.
This is Julie Korfhaj for Western Michigan, junior from Wichita, Kansas.
Sometimes you're just off. And that was one of them. Split jump to a split 3/4. She's definitely lacking in split there, but after a fall like that, I'm sure she's a little bit nervous. Nice front full, stuck landing. Just unfortunately off to the side on that series.
When you have a step off like that, are there changes that the gymnast will make in their mind to alter the routine? Particularly, obviously you can't pick up exactly where you were after a fall like that, but how does one try to maybe change the routine mid-routine, but also try not to lose as many points?
Right, it definitely depends on what skill they miss. She already, you know, her series was 2 back handsprings into a layout step out, so to repeat that, she wouldn't have gotten credit anyway because she'd already done 2 back handsprings. Sometimes though, you'll see like maybe they miss a front aerial before their back handspring, and then they can repeat the front aerial into the back handspring. Some athletes can add more difficulty later on. but unfortunately the series is a requirement, so that might hit her start value.
This is the sophomore Delaney Adrian, who competed as an individual on the second day of regionals last year as an all-arounder for Rutgers.
Nice, solid, clean routine. Full step on the landing.
This event last year at the bar, as we mentioned, she was one of 3 Rutgers Scarlet Knights. The team did not make it to the second day of regionals, but the 3 individuals, Adrian, Gildy, and we'll see Rachel Riley later on the beam and the vault. Those 3 made it to the second round of competitions down there in Alabama. Ironically enough, that's also the same regional that a couple of Ball State gymnasts made their way to last year. So a lot of familiar faces here, just a little bit north from last year at the NCAA regionals.
And it looks like she lost out on her start value there. She started at a 9.7. So besides the 5/10 for the fall, that's going to be a not the score that she's looking for.
Number 5 on the balance beam for Western Michigan is one of their freshmen, Linda Euro.
And following an athlete with the fall, you hope that she was able to just keep her mind focused on what she knows how to do. She can just get up there. She's back in the lineup at the end of the lineup for a reason. So she's going to be able to get up there and hopefully just do her thing. Not think about the extra pressure that she has now that her teammate fell off in front of her. And now, unfortunately, there's a conference, so.
How important are her teammates right now? Because you could see Euro right there looking over to the rest of the Broncos as we go back over to the beam. But how important are the teammates in this scenario? You mentioned your role as the assistant coach, but her friends are out there trying to keep her loose as well.
Exactly. You want them to be able to show they have confidence in her and remind her to stay loose and just get up there and do what she knows how to do. Nice toe front pike half off the bars.
That is Reagan Schenkel, sophomore from Flemington, New Jersey.
It was a nice bar rotation for Rutgers.
Second week in a row that Schenkel has provided and has been the anchor on this event for Rutgers. When you're trying to pick who your anchor is on a different event, what goes into those choices of who you're going to pick?
It depends on the lineup in front of them. Some coaches are putting their strongest, highest possibility of a score at the end. Some may just put their most consistent kid there because maybe the lineup is a little bit weaker. So it just depends on the makeup of the team. And this is one of the series that I was talking about. So you can see she wobbled after that front aerial. But she has a back handspring without step out, which unfortunately she just fell on. But she was originally going to connect all of that, and she just stopped and took her time. She just looks a little bit nervous on the beam today.
Tied for third last week in the season opener on this event.
You definitely see that she's got the ability to do a great beam routine. She just is letting the nerves get the best of her. Doesn't want to let her teammates down. And that just takes time and practice. More competition repetitions.
There's the second ever time that Euro's competed in this event. Again, only one she competed in last week against Wilberforce as Penny Jernigan comes over and tries to give a little positivity here to her youngster. It'll be Reese Samuelson to be the anchor on the beam here for Western Michigan.
And they're hoping to get a strong routine over here.
Ball State is done on the vault. They clipped through that vault real quick. They were moving.
They were moving. The judges were moving too, so it was a quick rotation.
And Rutgers has had their 6 competitors. You can see those right there. And Adrian, we mentioned, was an all-arounder a year ago. Here ties her mark that she set last week when she won the beam in that Rutgers try back at home.
Reese
to go. Yep.
is the anchor here. She just trying to remind herself she's good at this event and just get up there and be one with the beam. Relax and do what she knows how to do.
The second team All-MAC last year on the bars, so a 2-event athlete here for Western Michigan. And that was really her premier event last year for the Broncos, but trying to add this here. Are there any similarities between the bars and the beam that you could take for somebody that's so talented in one event here, like Reese?
Oh, not those two,
not
those two events. You know, the beam takes so much longer than bars. You've got to be able to keep your focus for such a long time on the balance beam. And bars, you just zip right through it. Once you get your swing going, you're just good to go. She looks confident up there. Back handspring, layout, step out. Nice. Very solid. Full turn. He's got a leap and an acro series left, probably. Front aerial, right into a beat jump. Nice connection. Split jump to a ring jump. I'm not sure if they're going to give her credit for that. Should have gotten her front leg up a little higher and released her head a little bit more, but they may give it to her and just take the deduction. Front full, she sticks the landing, good for her. Way to come back after her two teammates in front of her fell. That was a great way to finish on the balance beam.
You mentioned not getting the leg high enough or not getting credit for a skill that you do. How hard is that as a coach, knowing, and we talked about in scoring and gymnastics, it come down to tenths and hundreds and thousands of a point, but to try to get credit for a skill, it also could be inches if your knee isn't high enough or your leg isn't high. That's got to be kind of a frustrating thing, knowing you were literally so close to getting that skill.
Right, well, and it's really hard because sometimes they do it beautifully in practice every time, and you add a little bit of pressure to them and they hold back a little. So you're just hoping that they're going to break through that nervousness and be able to do the same thing in competition that they do in practice. And my guess is she probably does that beautifully at home.
Reese sees herself on the video board. Let's turn it over to the vault pack for Ball State. Started off with Jordana Phyllis with a 9.75 to lead things off for the Cards.
Nice Yurchenko full. She could use a little bit more height off the table. Solid landing, just a little bit off to the side.
Next up was the senior from Alabama, Mary Rose Bellin.
And she's going to do a completely different entry. She's doing a tuck souk full, so she goes onto the vault facing forward and does a cartwheel over the top and then a full twist in the tuck position. It's a nice vault. You don't see that very often.
Did not compete on this event last year for Ball State. Then it was Carly Mercer's turn.
And she's doing a round off, half on, half off back pike. Very well done.
Sophomore competed in all 12 meets last year as a newcomer.
That's a difficult vault to get a good block.
Here's the Indianapolis native, Grace Suchecki. Did not compete last year for BSU.
Does a nice front handspring, front pike half. Just a little high on the table.
She got a 9.725 for that, and then it was two people that brought Worthen Arena out of their seats. First up was Lindsey Gerard, the junior from Michigan.
And big Yurchenko full, just a step on the landing.
And then the youngster, Carly Stalder from North Canton, Ohio, was one of the highlight reel gymnasts during the red and white meet, and she comes out and puts a 9.850 in her first vault as a collegiate.
Very, very good. Almost stuck that landing. Really, really nice vault.
She'll be competing in 3 events today. Ball State slotted in second after our first event and our first rotation. Joanna Salim, first event, and a little bit to dance about for the Cardinals here after rotation number 1. Is that something that you could do after missing it initially, or how hard is that to try to put that back in?
It just depends on the athlete. So she couldn't do the same series again because she repeated the front toss twice. But if she wanted to, say, do a back handspring without step out, she could add that in. Just usually, kids don't practice more than 1 series. So it's not like I can just put this in right now. I haven't practiced it in 6 months.
You don't have a couple series of sticking in your back pocket.
Right.
I need to pull this out.
Most of them do not. Tuck full dismount, that is not the routine she was hoping for. Puts a little pressure on her teammates for the rest of the lineup. Exciting, though, to see her competing again.
Anna Milton, the competitor on the floor for Western Michigan. And Lise was supposed to be in her 5th year season a year ago. As I mentioned, she'd already made that decision to come back before the injury, heading on the practice day for the Big Ten Championships as a all-Big Ten second-team pick a couple of years ago, and competed in 3 events in that very first meet back. As you see Emily talking things over with Keely Smith, who's number 2.
You know, she's gotten herself together. It wasn't what she hoped for, but she's right there cheering on her next teammate, letting her know she's great, she's going to be good up there. Just relax and do gymnastics.
Emily, one of the 3 captains this year for Rutgers, along with Gabrielle Dildy and Rachel Riley, who we'll see on this event. Both of them will you see on this event for all 3 Rutgers captains.
She's getting some pointers from her coach. She said she goes by Tasia. It's much shorter, quicker to say, I guess.
Yeah. Coach Candia talking things over. We mentioned the incredible year for Rutgers last year, making the NCAA regionals as a team for the first time in over a decade. Well, the 20 gymnasts they have on the roster this year, 17 were on that team a year ago.
Wow.
So they bring back so much experience from that team. And you have the lady that was thrown into being the interim head coach a couple of months before the season started. Now they took that interim tag off real quick, and just you keep rolling along if you're the folks from Piscataway.
Well, you know, they finished the highest that they'd finished in a decade last season. They made it to postseason. No reason not to hire her full-time.
Yeah. So here's the sophomore from Lincoln, Nebraska, Keely Smith. This will be the only event that she competes on. We were given the lineups before today's meet.
Judges are taking their time over there on balance beam. And on floor as well. There we go.
So over on the floor, it's Julie Corfage. Second one up here for Western Michigan, and now it'll be Keely Smith about to step up for the beam for Rutgers. Ball State in the second rotation. They're on the uneven bars. We'll have their highlight package when our beam and floor athletes are done competing.
Starts out with a round off double pipe, beautifully done. And that's not easy coming out of the round off without a back handspring there.
Corfage broke out last year as a sophomore, competed in all 12 events, after competing in just 2 officially as a freshman.
Triple series on the balance beam, done really well. Full turn, you can see why they have her on this event. She's poised, confident, moves well on the beam. Switch leap, switch leap. Just a dismount left.
Really good second routine here on the beam for Rutgers after a couple of missteps from Lise in the leadoff spot.
Round off 1.5, and she sticks it over on floor in front. The round off double tuck, a little bit short. Great energy.
And that's Julie Corfage on the floor for Western Michigan. Keely Smith had a 9.600 last week in that beam routine. That one looked like it's going to be a lot better than that.
I think so. And she got the sparkly crown.
Her career high in this event's at 9.825. How big is that for Rutgers as you see Western Michigan cheering on Courfage? But for the Scarlet Knights, one of your captains has a couple of missteps on the beam in the leadoff spot. How big is it to get Smith out there, not only stick the landing, but have a really clean routine as well?
It's great. It gives the rest of the lineup confidence that they can do that too. And some of my strongest beam lineups were the kids that knew they all could do their own thing, and if somebody fell, it was okay. They had their back, and it looks like this team is that team.
Next up is Adrian for Rutgers.
Ready to go. Should not be a long wait on balance beam. There wasn't a lot to take on that beam routine. Over on floor, they got to put tape on all the mats. Got to make sure the judges can see the out of bounds line. There's no deduction for putting mats on the floor, but you've got to make sure that the lines are there so the judges can see if you step out.
Is there a designated person when you guys are in training that, hey, you're taping the corners on the mat, like this is your role when we're on floor?
Absolutely, because you got to do it quick.
Yeah.
Nice full turn.
Casey Mooney on the floor for Western Michigan. As we mentioned, Delaney Adrian on the beam
Double
for Rutgers.
pike. Very nice. Back handspring layout, step out, covers it well. Front layout. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a tuck front full or not. Either way, it was a smart decision. Really nice leap series. Switch it to a switch half over there on balance beam. Deep jump. See the leaps on floor a little bit bigger. Nice double full. She just tried a little bit too hard for that stick. Came out a little bit early with her chest down. Good beam routine. Double tuck landing. Oh, she just ran out of gas there at the end. She's it's fun to see her doing 3 tumbling passes. A lot of the athletes in the NCAA have taken to just doing 2 tumbling passes, which obviously takes a lot less endurance. But you have to be able to get all your difficulty in just those 2 tumbling passes. I'm a traditionalist. I like 3. Looks like maybe that stung her ankles a little bit on that last landing.
That's Casey Mooney, the all-arounder for Western Michigan. But you see the score there for Keely Smith. We said it was going to be a lot better than last week since she's matched her career high with a 9.825.
Good for her. What a way to follow up after a fall.
Adrian with a nice routine as well. There's a look at Keely Smith, sophomore out of Nebraska.
I like that Coach Tasia is just calm and cool. Not worried about anything that happened before, just in the moment, working with the next athlete.
What does it mean for her athletes as well? As we mentioned, when she was the assistant coach for the 6 years prior to year number 7 last year as the interim head coach, this was the event that she coached day in and day out. So how important is that she continues to coach these beam gymnasts, but there's kind of no changes. She's just the boss, the big boss now, but no change when it comes to beam. Correct.
It helps you to be able to build a stronger squad when you have the same coach year after year.
This is Mattis Raines, junior out of Atlanta.
Back handspring, beautiful straight legs. There's those long, straight legs that look so nice up on the balance beam.
Kennedy Cooper, the
cat leap to a front aerial. Very nicely done. She could have wobbled there and she didn't. You can see this is mark of having done balance beam for a few years. Big double pike over on the floor. Had to take a step out on the landing, not out of bounds, but just a step backwards, which you'd rather see them have too much power than not enough power. But still a deduction nonetheless.
A little bit easier as a coach to turn it down than try to turn it up.
And on beam, we've been watching her do this wonderful beam routine and then a full turn with a major break. The rest of her routine was just beautiful.
Has back-to-back wonderful routines on the beam. First from Smith, or excuse me, first from Smith, Adrian, and now Raines. As you see, Adrian score up there to 9.7.
Last tumbling pass, front through to a double tuck. Again, just a little out of gas at the end. It's the end of the season, the end of the floor routine. Early in the season, often they haven't done a ton of floor routines yet, so they're a little short on energy at the end.
Good coaching point there for Penny Jernigan, 12th year head coach at Western Michigan, with back-to-back athletes. And not kind of, as you mentioned, running out of gas on that last pass for floor, but just the second meter there. So something obviously to work on. Going, hey, ladies, we have to get our conditioning up or our cardio up or anything, so we can hit that last pass, particularly if you're going to be Mooney and have the 3 passes in there compared to the normal 2 now.
Absolutely, and it's a fine balancing act. How many routines you want to do early on, because they've got to compete weekend after weekend after weekend for 13 weekends in a row, and to do hard landings on the floor exercise instead of into a foam pit, that's hard on their bodies. So it's definitely a balancing act to decide, do we do more routines to try to get their endurance up, or do we do routines with easier tumbling passes, do more of them in a row? And there's just several ways you can do it, but it just looks like they might need a little more of it. Of course, also they have 3 kids out with the flu, so you never know if any of that is affecting these athletes too.
That was one of the things we talked with Ball State head coach Joanna Salim. She said, we're telling everybody in the fall, like, hey, we're 3 weeks out, but then you blink and 3 weeks is gone, and boom, it's meet day here today for Ball State to lead things off. Again, as we mentioned, second meet of the year for both Rutgers and Western Michigan. Right,
and you have to also figure in there, there's the Christmas holiday where they at least have a few days off, hopefully. So that makes a difference in their training as well.
Here's Brooke Galesko, junior out of Stevensville, Michigan. Did not compete on the floor last week against Wilberforce.
Nice front double full. Really well done.
As we mentioned, Galesko did not compete on this event last week against Wilberforce, but like we mentioned a couple times today, 3 gymnasts for the Broncos out with the flu, so this might be kind of a late ad here for Galesko.
Right, she's doing a great job out there. Round off 1.5, front layout. Very nicely done.
She was a vault specialist all of last year. And here's Rachel Riley on the beam for Rutgers.
Nice job on the floor. Back handspring layout, step out. Oh, just a little open hips there in the layout, step out. Combined with a little bit too much power, and off the side she went.
Riley, the senior out of Ontario, Canada, tied the school record on this event with a 9.950 last March.
You can definitely see how she could score that. She's aggressive, she has great lines, nice leaps and jumps, beautiful side aerial, moves well, doesn't look afraid of the beam at all.
Did not have the start to her college career that she wanted, missed her freshman year with an injury.
Finish with a back handspring, 1.5 twist, just a small hop. Minus the fall, that was a really great beam routine.
So 2 falls there on the beam for Rutgers, and it's hard there for 2 of your captains, but the good bounce back there, as we mentioned, from Smith and Adrian. Raines had a really nice routine in there as well with a 9.775. And then just 2 gymnasts left to go. Ball State done on the bars. We will get to their highlight package here. Last one on the floor for the Broncos is Bella Sifoli.
She's following their best routine so far, so she should be able to just let it fly.
Second event today for Bella at a 9.75 on the beam.
Big double pike. You really want to see him step backwards out of that, not forward, so she can get a deduction for a little under rotation. Double tuck, nicely done. I'd like to see her hold her feet still a little bit longer on that landing. Great leaps there, nice, over 180. Looks like she's gonna do 3 tumbling passes as well. One and a half, front layout, woo, saved it. Nice job.
So second event that we've seen the freshman from Foxborough on, and the anchor, the new all-arounder Gabrielle Dildy, excuse me, for Rutgers. We mentioned she added bars. Now she's getting to the 3 events she's been doing a lot of during her time in Piscataway.
Right. And she's very strong and consistent on this event. I don't want to jinx her.
She and Ridley, who just went, both scored 9.85 zeros on that second round of competition in the NCAA regionals last spring.
Pike front toss, that is not easy to do. Right into the back handspring. She broke the connection just a little bit. Hopefully the judges just take a rhythm deduction and not a series. Cat leap to a switch side. A different full turn. It's called an inward turn. Straddle quarter. Setting up for her dismount. Cartwheel, gainer full, nice laid out position. They should be happy with that routine.
Dildy, the senior from Virginia Beach, Virginia. College athletics runs in her family. Sister Darian was a volleyball standout at Stevenson University. And her younger sister Gabrielle, back-to-back Big Ten gymnast to watch the last 2 years, and one of those 3 gymnasts, as we mentioned, that were individual competitors in the second round of the NCAA regionals last year. You see the 2 scores there at the top there for Ball State. Both falls for Ava Molina and Jordana Phyllis. Molina here, the first one to lead it off here for BSU in the second event.
Just barely caught by her fingertips on that Maloney. So unfortunately, she didn't really have enough swing to get into that pack salto.
So assistant coach Scott Wilson coming in to check on Ava right there.
Well, it never feels good on your knees when you land on that hard mat like that. Double layout, had to tuck it down just a little bit. She's going to be disappointed with that routine.
Next up on the uneven bars for Ball State, second event of the day for the Canadian Jordana Phyllis after going 9.750 on the ball.
Ooh, she saved that. Giant half to a pike Jaeger. She's going for those handstands. Oh, it's hard to tell from this angle, but it looked like that was a really high pack salto and just made it a little bit hard to hang on to when she caught the low bar. I love to see her going for all these handstands, though. Double layout, just a little hop on the landing.
We talked about the couple of falls for Rutgers on the beam. Ball State had those two there. When you're number 3 in line for like Delaney McMahon, who knows there's a lot of pressure and had to put a really big routine out there for BSU, how do you try to kind of get her confidence up from an assistant coach standpoint?
Well, you just try to remind her that she's in the lineup for a reason. She's earned her spot. It's just like practice. Just do what she knows how to do. She's doing very well over there. A little late on that pirouette, which is going to be a deduction. Giant full to a double tuck, sticks the landing. And I might be wrong, but I don't remember her coach or doing bars last season.
Yep, first time that Delaney's competed on the bars. A veteran of the bars, the all-arounder from last year, Zoe Middleton.
Nice toe handstand. Maloney to overshoot to handstand. Really well done. Good handstand. Giant full, finishes almost in a handstand. Double tuck, sticks the landing. Good for her.
Middleton, the program record holder, as she has some fun with Coach Scott Wilson, but the program record holder in bars with a perfect 10 a couple years back. Then there's the senior Mary Rose Bellin out of Alabama.
A little short on that handstand there. Looks like Ball State's gotten back in their rhythm, though. Nice double layout, just let go a tiny bit early, so she was a little short on the landing.
And no surprise for Ball State, their anchor on bars, the back-to-back MAC champ in this event, Ashley Sismansky.
She's fun to watch on this event. Nice jump over mount. Beautiful handstand. Giant full. Huge ginger right into an overshoot. Her feet never come apart. I love to watch her on bars. Beautiful giant full. Double tuck. Sticks the landing. Really nice way to finish off bars for Ball State.
A 9-9 for Sismansky brings it home for BSU on the bars. We're halfway home from Worthen. Rotation 3 coming up next. Rotation, Western Michigan will be on the vault. Our exclusive coverage here of Rotation 3 will be the bounce beam for Ball State and the floor routine for Rutgers. There's the 2020 MAC Coach of the Year, 13th year for Penny Jernigan leading the Broncos. You see the 3 conference championships here on the screen there, I should say, but they won the MAC championships here. We mentioned in Worth Arena back in 2024. Came down to the last event, the last competitor, one last vault for Western Michigan, and they take the title from the Cardinals by 0.5 of a point.
500.
500 point, excuse me.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Even closer.
It was exciting.
It was the first MAC crown for Western Michigan since 2013, so a lot of good vibes for the Broncos coming back in here to Worth Arena.
I think they like coming here.
Yeah. So they're probably a little bummed that the regular season, we got to go at
right.
home. Oh man, like we really kind of like competing against Ball State down in Muncie. It's good times for us. We mentioned today a non-conference matchup between Ball State and Western Michigan. Their regular conference matchup will come up later in the year. You see the gymnast there for our third rotation, but you bring in Rutgers here from the East Coast, the 36th ranked team in the preseason coaches poll. What does that do for these two MAC schools? Seeing someone from the Big Ten, a Power 4 conference, come in here today and in an early season matchup.
You know, it's a really good eye-opener. You know, it kind of helps you shoot for where you want to be, you know, and Ball State was there just a couple years ago. I know they're wanting to get back in there, and Western Michigan as well. But it's fun to see what else is out there besides your own conference.
And like we mentioned earlier, the Tuscaloosa Regional was where Rutgers went as a team. That's where the individual gymnasts for Ball State went. So they've got a little Scarlet Knight flair from last year's regionals down in Alabama.
Right. It's just a lot colder up here.
Just a tiny bit colder with that little scrape of snow that graced us with its presence coming
Early
into
this
the
morning,
day.
right? I wasn't ready for it.
Thankful I still had the scraper in my car. I was like, I got used to the 50s and 60s. Like, oh, we're good, we're home free. And then, you know, Mother Nature said, no, it's the Midwest in January,
I was
so
going to say,
buckle
but then
up.
you remember it's only January.
That's right.
There's a couple more months of winter here. But I was not expecting 25 degrees.
No, that wind was rough.
It was cold.
So, roof secured here at Worthen Arena, nice and toasty here in Muncie today. First up on the beam is Ava Molina here for BSU in their third rotation.
It's a fun mount to see. Back handspring to a shoulder stand on the beam. Coach Salim was saying that this lineup isn't too different from last year, so she's looking for it to be a lot more consistent than last year.
Ava's had that consistency in her 36 competitive routines, just scored 9.725 or higher in 23 of them.
Wow.
Lisa Chavert getting things going on the floor for Rutgers on the right side of your screen.
Opening with a nice double pike. A little wobble on that front toss over there on balance beam, but she moved out of it very well. Could have been a much bigger bobble. Front layout, front full, very nicely done. Beautiful toe point over there on floor. Round off double full, just a step on the landing. Very solid routine to start off Ball State on balance beam.
Chavert ended her season with a bang last year for Rutgers, set a new career high on the floor of the Big Ten Championships.
Double tuck. Another one of those 3-pass floor routines. Nicely done. Solid start over there on floor as well.
In a role with USA Gymnastics, maybe you can start championing and trying to start a groundswell to get the 3 passes back at floor routine. We started from the ground up here at college. We'll bring it back.
Well, you know, in club gymnastics, they're doing 3 or 4 passes. Just here in college, the girls are getting more mature in age, and their bodies are having to do a lot more pounding. In club gymnastics, even in the elite gymnastics, you don't go week in and week out for 13 weeks straight. You go, you know, in club maybe once every other weekend. In elite, it's like 4 times a year. You know, so it's college is definitely harder on the body.
We mentioned you're an assistant coach for a long time at both Auburn and Kentucky, and people from the outside can look and go, well, they compete once a week, but you're doing it every Sunday, and in the high-octane SEC world, I'm sure this is ramped up even more so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the SEC, it's usually every Friday night, and every team there is in the top 15 in the country. So just your regular conference matchups feel like the national championships. Nice back handspring layout over there on beam, nice and solid.
This is the freshman Carly Stalter, the all-arounder for BSU.
I can see why she's one to watch. She's, oh, well, that hurt. But she's clearly a fighter, and she's done a great job so far today.
Over on the floor for Rutgers, it's Reagan Schenkel.
Front toss over on the balance beam.
The beam has not been kind to a lot of our gymnasts. We've seen a lot of falls here in this early season matchup.
Way to finish strong, though.
Red and white meet. Stalder had a 9.800 in the red and white meet here a couple weeks back.
Well, that leap landing is going to leave a mark on her legs.
This is the sophomore Schinkel. She competed on this event last week to open up the season for the Scarlet Knights.
A lot of energy on the floor.
We talked about it with Western Michigan with a couple of their passes kind of running out of gas. When you, again, just the second meet of the year for Rutgers and Western Michigan, first one for Ball State. When you hit this midway point after the first two rotations, you kind of got into a rhythm here, but how important is it to keep that energy level up? As you know, you have 2 more events left, but it can be kind of, you know.
It's difficult. You have to make sure that the athletes are fueled properly. You know, we would make sure that they were drinking pickle juice or cherry juice in the middle of the meet. The little honeycomb stingers, anything to give them a little boost of energy halfway through, because it's a long day. And they spend an hour plus warming up and then another couple hours in competition. Most of them aren't going to want to eat right before competition, so you got to give them a little burst of energy.
Is that more important, even more important for a young lady like Stalder for Ball State, or Mooney, the 2 freshmen all-arounders for their respective teams, knowing, hey, this is a whole different thing that maybe you're not used to?
Absolutely, because there's just a lot more energy put out in the college meet. These girls are just cheering on their teammates and screaming and smiling and dancing around, which is fantastic, but it takes more energy.
And
nice leap pass there.
I saying, if you're Ball State here on Squishmallow Day, you're throwing out Squishmallows to the fans in between events as well. So you got to, you know, loosen the arm up a little bit to try to get it up to the stands.
And gymnasts don't do a lot of throwing. They're not known for that.
This is the junior Lindsay Fuller in her lone event today.
Handspring layout, step out, really nicely done. Love seeing the confidence up there. Gainer full, hop on the landing. You know, that's one of the dismounts that should be pretty easy to stick, so you hate to see a hop there.
3 athletes in on the beam for BSU. Our vault has been just kind of like the Autobahn today. It is just flying.
They're already done over there.
No pun intended, so they fly through the air, but they are just, vault not messing around.
They are not.
Western Michigan will have that highlight pack coming up after we get through the beam and the floor.
Had 2 people go on floor.
In Western Michigan. Now, we talked about trying to fuel your athletes and they're getting ready for the last rotation here, but when you're on vault, like we mentioned, everybody has clipped through vault incredibly quick.
Right.
What does that come for the coaching staff trying to get your gymnasts ready, knowing, all right, now we're going to sit here for a couple of minutes, and then you have the touch period, and then you have the warm-up period. So there's a very, it's fun to kind of go, yeah, we ripped through vault, that's great, but now you're going to have 10, 15 some odd minutes just to wait around.
Right, and you got to be able to keep them focused without focusing too much. You don't want them to be too worried about what's coming next. You want them to have a little bit of a break, but they still need to be up to go over the bars.
This is Delaney Adrian, finished second on this routine last week.
1.5, front full. See her friends dancing around on the side of the floor. Like to see her knees together on that Wolf 1.5, but she made it around well.
Zoe Middleton on the beam here for BSU.
She's almost going with the music there. Beautiful 2 switch leaps to a split jump. Beautiful split. Front laid out 1.5. Cat leap side aerial. You can see why Zoe's such a major player over there on the balance beam. She's so confident and poised. There's beautiful form, great splits, lines. Just her dismount left. Tuck full to a beautiful stick position. Really well done.
Senior out of Delaware, was touted as a future superstar when she was a freshman 3 years ago. Again, and look at how excited Zoe is.
As she should be.
Yeah, exactly. Competing in just 2 events, you know, she got hurt, had suffered a lower body injury in one of the last regular season meets of the year, qualified for the regionals, and is going to give a huge hug to Joanna Salim. But you can see, once they can get her back in doing the vault and the floor routine,
yes,
Zoe Middleton's going to be doing a lot more smiling and a lot more dancing coming up this year.
Exactly. And it's hard when you're an all-arounder and all of a sudden you're only doing 2 events, then you've got to try to stay focused. Fortunately, in this rotation order, she just had to sit, and then she got to go 2 in a row and then sit again, which is much easier than, say, if they would have started on floor and she would have to sit for floor and vault to get ready for bars and beam. That's hard to do.
Tell the folks at home, we talked about a couple of different, the 2 Achilles injuries for Rutgers. We mentioned Middleton's lower body injury. The reasoning that she's only competing in the 2 is because it's putting less stress on that lower body injury compared to what you have to do for vault from the landing and obviously the passes that we've seen from floor, correct?
Correct. And you know, sometimes it takes a while to get your strength back, especially if the injury was in your lower body. So just as takes her time to make sure that she's not overdoing it, because they're going to want her later in the season on 4 events.
One of the best events for Delaney McMahon is here on the balance beam. Tied the BSU program record last year with a 9.925 against Northern Illinois.
And she's got a very original beam routine too. It's fun to watch. That handspring layout. That was beautiful landing.
See the 9.9 there for Middleton. That ties a career high for her on the balance beam.
And she deserved it. And I've been watching Delaney for a couple years now, and it's just fun to watch as she's grown more confident every year. That was a really nice beam routine.
You get 2 just showstoppers back-to-back in Middleton and McMahon in the 4 and 5 spot on your beam routine. We talked about earlier how you set your lineup and the 6 athletes that you have going as we move over to the floor here for Rutgers and Elliott Goldsmith. But when you can put 2 folks back-to-back in Middleton and McMahon, that's got to do wonders for BSU.
Absolutely, and really sets up that anchor position for a good score. And Ashley is definitely capable of it. Over here on floor, though, Tasia was telling us how proud she is of the choreography, and these girls are really showing off their dance over there. They're having fun with it.
The Goldsmith household was a happening place when Elliott was growing up. Shout out to her parents, Tisha and Mark. Elliott, one of 13 kids in the Goldsmith household.
Ooh. That's a lot of diapers to change. Where does she fall in the birth order, do you know?
I didn't see that, but I've got the dozen of her siblings that we'll rip off here at the end of her routine, because it would take the whole routine to get through all of her brothers and sisters.
She's doing a nice job over on the floor. Ooh, Ruby to a back layout, straddle jump.
And Sosmanski just started her beam routine for BSU.
Good floor routine over there.
So here are the Goldsmith siblings. Shout out Nicholas, Michael, Nathan, Sean, Wren, Alex, Cooper, Mathis, Rory, Jolie, Bet, and Carlin.
Whew. Ooh, that's a lot. Wonder how many times they get called by the wrong name.
You, come here.
Exactly. I only have one child, and she still gets called by the wrong name sometimes.
We saw Sosmanski's top event earlier on the uneven bars, which is the back-to-back MAC champ, but no slouch, a career high of 9.875 on this event to boot.
She started off strong. Hopefully she can keep it up. Switch half. That back leg was a little bit low there, but she covers nicely on the landing.
A little wink over to the judges.
It's fun when they can let their personality show off there. Sticks the landing. That was a really good beam routine.
So that is 3 wonderful routines. Middleton started with a career high tying 9.9, then McMahon with a 9.850, and Szymanski puts a bow on rotation 3 here for the Cards.
And I think they're the first team not to have to count a fall on beam.
Yep, because I think everybody else had 2 falls,
Yep.
if memory serves right. And obviously you had Stalder that was really cooking there and then had that slip, so she's the drop scorer there for BSU. But Beam's been, we told in our conversations with Coach Salim, she admitted, she goes, a couple years, a year ago, Beam was our weakest event.
Right.
And they've really, really strengthened it with those 3 young ladies that finished there, Middleton, McMahon, and Szymanski leading the charge.
Well, it's always nice when you have returners on balance beam, because just fighting the nerves is most of the battle on balance beam. As far as the skills they're doing, they've probably been doing those skills the longest out of every event. They've been doing a back handspring since they were 8 years old. So it's not the difficulty of the skills as much as it's just the nerves.
Yeah.
On a 4-inch piece of, it's metal now, but it used to be wood.
And 4 feet above the ground, right? The old 4x4.
Right.
This is the all-rounder Gabrielle Dildy, the senior from Virginia Beach.
Love to see the hip rise there on her leap pass. She's definitely having fun out there.
Little switch up in the lineup this week. Dildy was the anchor in this event last week. It'll be, as you can see on your screen there, Lise will be anchoring the floor today for Rutgers.
With her last tumbling pass. Big double pike, sticks the landing, definitely showed the control.
We talked about the type of just high-level gymnastics you got to see in the SEC for all those years with Auburn and Kentucky. When you have somebody like Gabrielle Dildy that seems to just do jaw-dropping things every time, what's it like to coach athletes like that can just put on shows on any event they go to?
Well, those athletes are a blessing.
You're right, yeah.
As a coach, you just love it when those athletes come along that just are fun, go out there, do their thing. They don't take their gymnastics too seriously. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they take it seriously enough to perform well every time.
See the conversation between Dildy and Lise. Saw Coach Tasia Candia earlier. I had to like what she's seen out of her Scarlet Knights here. A lot of, as Mattis Raines hyping things up here for Dildy, and you can just tell how happy she was. We asked her what was it like, jumping into the head coaching position, how big of a help it was being the interim. She goes, oh, it was a huge help, and then it's kind of just seemed like we just kept it rolling this year compared to having to jump in, and even if she had been the assistant coach last year. So it's been just this Rutgers program for the last, 18 or so months has just been on cloud 9.
Yep. And Tasia's just done a great job of just staying calm and working day in and day out, trying to make sure these athletes are having a great experience. And it looks like they are.
I would like to know how long it took to put all of the shiny crystals on the little small axe there that Miss Goldsmith is.
Well, it took a while. I wonder if she has a bedazzler.
Yeah, does she have a bedazzler? Do they have is there someone in Jersey that does this?
I mean, it's Jersey, so probably.
They've got a bedazzler guy.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
Last on the floor for the Scarlet Knights is Emily Lise. This is the event last year or 2 years ago that she tore her Achilles on in the practice day before the Big Ten championships. But Coach Candia told us when she hit the skill that she suffered the injury on, the whole practice stopped, and it was a giant group hug for the Scarlet Knights.
I can only imagine. Very well done, tuck full in. She looks thrilled to be back out there on the floor.
One of the 3 captains this year for the Scarlet Knights hails from Lancaster, PA.
Front, through to a double tuck. Great job. Moved her feet a little bit on that landing. That's awesome to see when you see an athlete come back from an Achilles tear. That's a big deal.
We talked about the way that BSU finished on the beam, but you go Dildy and Lise on the floor. That is some show-stopping stuff there for Rutgers.
Absolutely. Yeah,
over on the vault, we mentioned Western Michigan clipped through the vault real quick. Here there's 6 athletes. First up was Kennedy Cooper with a 9.725.
Yurchenko full, a little off to the side there. Good form in the air. Like to see a little more block off the table. Solid start though.
Next up was Aaliyah Kelly.
Another Yurchenko full. She had more power and just hiked down a little bit. She didn't need to.
Kelly transferred in after competing as a freshman last year at Northern Illinois. Next up, it was Brooke Galesko.
Doing a handspring front tuck half. Nicely done. A little chest down on the landing. Had to take a step. That's a difficult vault.
Fourth was the all-arounder in Casey Mooney for Western Michigan. Last week tied for first in this event.
Very pretty Yurchenko full. Unfortunately a step on the landing, but great form in the air.
Her classmate in her 3rd event of the day, Bella Silfi.
Oh, she just tried a little too hard for that stick. I love seeing the good form though. They have great form in the air.
And last up on the vault was the sophomore Kyler Webster.
Another Yurchenko full. Just you can see she's not very far away from the table. She's going to get hit on distance. Great form though.
How easy is that to try to, we'll touch on that when we come back from this commercial break as Rutgers finishing up with their exhibitions here on the floor. One more rotation left as Ball State has a 1/10 of a point lead over the Scarlet Knights. As we head to the final rotation of the day, the Scarlet Knights will be on the vault, so that'll be our highlight package at the end of this rotation. See Joanna Salim and her Ball State Cardinals. The 3-time MAC Coach of the Year took the Cards to the regionals, and in her 13th season, one of the longer tenured coaches in the MAC, and she has really built this Ball State team into one of the powerhouses in the Mid-American Conference.
It's been fun to watch. She took over this program while I was still coaching at Kentucky, and just watching it build is really cool to see.
Big party on the floor is what Ball State's deemed it, and it seems I'm glad to see that everybody kind of takes that theme. When we talked with Coach Candia at Rutgers, they're like, oh yeah, the floor's just a big party the whole time. And so when you're Ball State, when you're the home team, you get to end with the party on the floor.
That's right.
They'll try to bring it home here on rotation number 4.
And that's a good place to make up ground.
You see our athletes here for the final rotation. We'll be showcasing Ball State on the floor, Western Michigan on the uneven bars. And because this is a tri-meet, you kind of get so used to going, okay, vault bars, then beam floor. And then because of the tri-meet, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, they have to go back to something. What's that like for Western Michigan, kind of having everything shaken up today, coming to go to an event that you normally have done, you know, about an hour or so ago in a normal dual meet?
Well, it goes in Olympic order still, so most of these kids growing up through their club programs, you don't always compete on vault first, you know, so they're used to it. Sometimes it's a blessing. Sometimes it's nice to not start out on bars, kind of get all of your jitters out, and you can just settle into your bar routine. This is a really good bar routine. I don't know if the reverse hect was on the video, but it was about 6 feet above the high bar. It was huge.
That's the Indiana native from St. John, Rylan Garvey, on her second event of the day. And the first on the floor is Viviana Campuzano for BSU. Making her collegiate debut today after not competing last year as a freshman, a sophomore from Shorewood, Illinois.
Front layout, front 1.5, done very well. When we talk about endurance, you know, it's hard to get athletes to perform like this in practice, and it takes a lot more endurance to perform than to just do your routine. You can tell that these Ball State athletes have been training this way.
And this is the first time we've seen Viviana today, so she's been watching everybody go, and then she leads things off here on the floor.
Right, and that's hard to do when you've been sitting for 2 hours. 1.5 front layout. Dancing out there. That's one thing when they do 2 tumbling passes, there's a lot of dance out there.
Why is that?
It has to be, the routine has to be between 1:10 and 1:30. So if you take out one of the tumbling passes, that's just as more time to dance out there.
When you're putting the routines together, is there somebody there, as you see a slip there from Casey Mooney, the second to go here on the bars, is there somebody that will sit there and time it? I mean, I know because I'm 900 years old. I was going to say a stopwatch, but on their phone now with the stopwatch app on your phone. Is there someone, when you're putting these together during the fall, that will time it and go, hey, we're this many seconds short, or we're this many seconds over?
Yes. I mean, you start with a piece of music that should fit in that time frame, and then, you know, sometimes they might have to start with 3 tumbling passes, and then they might be close to 1:30, and then they maybe get enough difficulty to be able to only do 2 tumbling passes, so they take 1 out, and they might just cut the music a little bit shorter.
So it always goes music first and then routine for the floor?
Right. And over here on bars, Casey, on her first, she was supposed to do, oh, bless her heart. She was supposed to do a toe reverse head. Then her feet got stuck on the bar, so she just went around the bar. But then she had to repeat it and fell. And then we just saw her fall again.
Freshman all-arounder here for the Broncos. And second up on the floor is Alana Sims for BSU. But for Mooney here in her second collegiate meet, a little bit of a stumble there on the dismount. Is it good for her to kind of, you never want to have a poor routine, but to get this in meet number 2 of her college career, to kind of know how to work through it, is that beneficial?
Definitely. I mean, yes. There are very few athletes that are just great every single time.
Right.
So the sooner in your career you can deal with it and learn how to overcome, you know, who knows if a fall earlier in the meet caused her to not be on bars today. Maybe she's not feeling well either, and it's the 4th event and she's exhausted. You know, it's hard to say what happened, but if you're going to have a catastrophe on the bars, the second meet of the year is a much better time to have it than the final meet of the year.
And if I remember, I think she was one of the ones that ran out of gas and might have kind of stubbed her toe a little bit on one of those passes on floor earlier today too, I think. Campuzano scoring her first collegiate routine. Sims trying to follow it up here on the floor for Ball State.
I'd like to see her legs up a little higher on that straddle jump. Her hip height was great, but she definitely didn't hit 180 with her splits. Good energy throughout.
Sims, a senior out of Tennessee, and not competed on the floor until last season. And then she won the very first event with a career-high 9-9 against Northern Illinois on March 2nd. So she came out of the gate swinging in her first floor routine. Starts off the year here with a floor routine in meet number 1 for the Cards.
Yeah, and a great job.
So that's Aaliyah Kelly, sophomore transfer from Macfo, Northern Illinois. Third up here on the bars. Was just an exhibition last week in that season opener against Wilberforce.
They're looking for her to be solid and stay on the bars.
Kelly thrown into the lineup here today. Might have been because of those 3 Broncos out with the flu today.
Giant full to a Ginger. She's got great form over there. Definitely see a little more amplitude on that Ginger. A little short on the handstand on the low bar there. Nice handstand on the high bar. Wow, double layout, full out. That's a very, very difficult bar dismount. Probably the most difficult one we'll see today. And she did it very well with just a small step on the landing.
Much needed clean routine there for Western Michigan on the bars.
That was a great follow-up. Nice 2.5 there on floor.
This is Ava Molina for the Cardinals.
Job over here on the floor.
Career high for Ava's at 9.825 in this event.
Her team is enjoying it.
Blaze the team there with a little stick into the tongue out before that last couple skills.
Ball State's doing well over there.
Floor seems to be the most interactive with your teammates. We talked about it, you know, being kind of a more kind of calm the nerves down a little bit. There's a long pass, but it almost seems like you take your teammates out there with you on the floor for that event.
You have to keep that energy up. They are imperative in helping you to keep going. Good bar routine going on over here.
This is the junior Reese Samuelson.
Nice double layout, just a little hop on the landing.
This was the event that Reese was second team All-MAC on last year, ranked 3rd in the Mid-American Conference. Had an NQS score of 9.845, an average score of 9.825. We mentioned off the top about the change in the NQS coming into this season. It was adopted, I should say, late in the fall. For those at home, kind of what's the change here for NQS this year in 26 compared to what it's been in the past?
Well, this year, I believe that they're counting 9 scores. In the past, they counted 6. You took your highest 3 away, and then your next highest, regardless if they were home or away. And then you dropped the high score and averaged the other 5. Now you're counting almost every competition. You know, most teams are doing 11 meets, so you might get a couple to drop, but you can only count 4 home meets, and you drop your highest home meets if you have more than that. So they're definitely trying to even the playing field for teams that they feel like maybe get a home team advantage. They compete at home a lot, and maybe they get higher scores at home. But you can't just count on getting better as the season goes.
There's a great article on ESPN.com that explains, it's a nice preview of the whole college gymnastics season, but there's a really good section that gets some good in-depth info on the new NQS for this season. This is Lindsey Gerard on the floor for BSU. And Julie Coiffage on the bars for Western Michigan.
A little short on that handstand, but really pretty. Overshoot the handstand. Ball State's doing a great job of keeping their energy up. Toe front pie calf off the bars over there. It's always fun to see a different dismount than a double back.
You mentioned keeping the energy up. Is that something that might have been stressed this week in practice from Coach Salim and the staff, knowing that, like we mentioned a couple times, Western Michigan and Rutgers, second meet of the year, first one for Ball State, knowing, hey, we have to really be mindful now of keeping that energy up when we get to rotations 3 and 4 being our first one out of the gate this year.
Yeah, and especially finishing on floor for your first one out of the gate, because you want to stay hyped up for your home crowd. You want the crowd to get in it with you, and if the athletes don't have energy on the floor, the crowd doesn't have energy, and it's not a lot of fun. So they've really done a great job staying excited out there on the floor. And definitely that's something they have to practice.
Big smiles there for Coiffage and her teammates after a very solid bars routine for Western Michigan. And here's the freshman Carly Stalder. Had a slip on the beam earlier, and her first collegiate meet, she's competing in every event as the all-arounder for the youngster.
And her leg is probably a little bit sore. I'll tell you what, though, she definitely showed some fight over there on balance beam.
Amy Robbins last up on the bars for Western Michigan.
And Western Michigan has come back strong with their bar routines after that falls from Casey Mooney. See if they can finish strong. You can see they have an 8-inch mat under there. They can just have that under the bar during the release move. So right here. And then they'll pull it out. Ooh, a little stumble, got her foot caught there. Front double twist on floor, very good. Nice starter over there on the bars into a double tuck with a step landing.
This was the big event for Stalder during the red and white scrimmage meet for Ball State a couple of weeks ago. Had the tie for the best individual score of the entire meet on this event with a 9.850.
Well, she performs well. She's got big tumbling. See what happens on her leaps.
Coach Salim said she's an incredibly quiet person, but when she gets on the floor, it's like a switch gets flipped. She becomes a fiery competitor doing things like that.
2.5 twist to a front layout. Very well done. Here comes her leaps. Nice hip rise. I'd like to see her get her legs a little bit more in a 180 position. Excellent floor routine.
You can see the scores being tabulated for the teams in the bottom right corner of your screen. Again, Rutgers came in with a slight lead in this final rotation. And as has been going on the rest of the day, vault in, out, very quick for the Scarlet Knights coming through and waiting for our last competitor on the floor here for BSU to be Grace Suchecki, the sophomore out of Indianapolis. And loved our conversation a couple of days ago with that lady, Joanna Salim. Really likes where her team is, and my favorite thing is she talks about, trying to get some folks back from injuries, and she said, I am not going to serve half-cooked pancakes when referring to a lot of her athletes are going, I want to try the all-around. I want to do 3 events. They're like, no, it's like you mentioned,
right.
It's a 13-week season. We're not serving half-cooked pancakes here on January 11th.
And that is a smart philosophy. I've never heard it put that way before. It made me giggle a little bit, but certainly know exactly what she means. Not putting people out there that aren't quite ready, because that's where you get hurt again.
I can see the T-shirts now at the Ball State bookstores being printed, coming up, available for purchase by the end of the week. Suchecki did not compete for scores that counted last year for Ball State, so the sophomore's already competing. This is her 3rd event of her first collegiate meet.
I Love to see that. Nice double tap. Great opening. Front layout, front full. Another nice landing. Showed the control. Switch half to wolf full. Could get her heel higher than horizontal there. Last pass, front handspring, 1.5 twist. For her first collegiate floor routine, that was a great job.
And the anchor to boot for the sophomore as well, trying to bring it home.
And the audience liked it a lot.
Big time hug there from her head coach, Joanna Saline. Rutgers, we've been featuring them prominently throughout the day, and here's the vault pack for the Scarlet Knights. And leading it off was Lisa Chavert.
Nice Yurchenko full, good landing. A little off to the side, but great form in the air. Now that's the most common vault you see in college gymnastics is a Yurchenko full. Unfortunately, it doesn't start at a 10.0.
Next up, Vivian Larson in her only event today.
A little early on that twist, so she had to pike down and she's a little close to the table.
Much improved for Larson was a 9.450 last week. Then it was Elliott Goldsmith.
Yurchenko full again. Good form in the air, a little low on the landing.
One of the three captains for Rutgers, as their three captains finish things out on the vault, it was Rachel Riley.
She's doing a Yurchenko 1.5, I believe. That does start at 10.0. Now she probably lost 2 to 3 tenths on that landing because she had to squat so low to land. But great to see her doing a 10.0 start value vault.
Then it was Gabrielle Dildy up next.
She does a huge Yurchenko full. Really nicely done. Good landing, chest up, feet together in the air.
Both Riley and Dildy improved on their scores from the first meet last week, and the anchor was the captain, Emily Lease.
She does a 1.5. I watched her stick that vault in warm-ups. A little early on the twist there, so she was still twisting when she landed. But
had a 9.9 last week to open things up. Exhibition on the floor for BSU. We'll come back and wrap up our team scores in our competition today next here on ESPN+. First home meet and first meet of the year for Ball State in the books. Meet number 2 on the year for Rutgers and Western Michigan. Rick Johnston, Mary McDaniel back here with you high atop Worthen Arena. And we talked to, in our open, Mary, about a lot of jitters for a lot of athletes, particularly Ball State in meet 1 of the year. Everyone's going nuts, so they're throwing out squishmallows to everybody.
I want a squishmallow.
Well, they had 2 tables, so there's plenty to go around here in Muncie today. But thoughts on our event, on our meet today here overall? A lot of high-end performances from all 3 teams.
I was impressed with Ball State. I think that they started out like they wanted to. Not a lot of mistakes, just slow and steady. We saw a little bit of some jitters maybe for Western Michigan and their freshmen. Had a couple falls today. But Rutgers, other than the beam, they had a little trouble on the beam, but they really did a good job today. Yeah, I think they'll be pleased.
Yeah, the Scarlet Knights came in ranked 36 in the preseason coaches poll. We mentioned their incredible year a year ago, making the NCAA regionals for the first time in over a decade. And I thought Rutgers really lived up to the building. Their 3 captains, like we talked about, were impressive as well, but they really lived up to that 36th ranking in the country. They were incredibly impressive today.
They really were. They finished really strong on vault. It was fun to see their 2 10.0 start values there. And they look ready to go. I think it's going to be a good season for them.
Second meet of the year for the Big Ten Scarlet Knights. Second one for Western Michigan. Number 1 in the books for Ball State. As we take a look here at our team scores today. And you see right there at the bottom, Rutgers coming away with that victory over Ball State today. It was the Scarlet Knights out early and often, but a lot of really high-end scores for Rutgers here in meet 2. Ball State coming in at second, and then Western Michigan rounding out our 3 teams here today.
Not a bad day. The beam got the better of Western Michigan and Rutgers today, though.
And that was kind of the commonplace today as well. And we talked about it, when each team was competing on the beam. But obviously, as a coach, and you know this very well, being at Auburn and Kentucky, you want things to work on, particularly in whether it's meet 1 or meet 2, and particularly the beam. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of beam work going on for all 3 of these teams after some slips here and there today.
Right. Well, and when you've had those slips, it's nice to. It's not nice, but it's nice to be able to go back to the gym and say, okay, what went wrong? Why do you think you had the falls? Were you just nervous? Do we need to work more on certain skills? Like I said, that's the easiest gymnastics for them. So it's just a matter of going back and refocusing there. Some slips on the bars today that were uncharacteristic. I think those teams are going to clean those up and really show some great bars this season.
We highlighted 3 gymnasts to start the day. 2 of them were the all-arounders. Zoe Middleton working her way back in for Ball State. We mentioned the all-arounder last year, suffered a lower body injury, but she looked really good on both bars and tied a career high on beam today as well.
Well, you can see why everybody's chomping at the bit for her to come back on vault and floor, because she definitely is a major player on this Ball State team.
Freshman Mooney, the all-arounder in her second collegiate meet for Western Michigan. But I was really impressed all day with Gabrielle Dildy. We mentioned just a 3-eventer last year, then she came out and was a real showstopper today, taking that all-around title.
Yeah, and look at her consistency. She's, bars is her second time to compete that event, 9.75. Everything else is above a 9.825. Really did a good job today. Was fun to watch. I enjoyed this meet a lot.
Everybody getting ready to go as college gymnastics is off and running. The showcase event yesterday on ABC and ESPN, as the final score is getting tabulated here today. Rutgers, again, our team champs over Ball State and Western Michigan. So for Mary McDaniel, I'm Rick Johnson saying so long from Worthen Arena, where Rutgers victorious over Ball State and Western Michigan today. Also special thanks to our producer, Austin Hernandez, and our director, Eric Perrin, and the rest of our great ESPN Plus crew. All games and meets airing on the ESPN networks are streaming live and archived on the ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.